Hello and welcome to the American Marketing Association New York Chapter's content series, The Future of the Chief Marketing Officer. I'm Dorothy Crenshaw of Crenshaw Communications, and I'm your host today in my role as AMA New York board member. Today's guest, Joanna Seddon. She leads the global brand consulting practice for Ogilvy. Joanna is a foremost expert on everything brand, from strategy to valuation. She's known for the Brand Z Top 100 ranking of the world's most valuable global brands. Joanna was also a founding partner at Future Brand, and she has held senior positions at IPG and McKesson. She's worked with a who's who list of top brands from P&G, Unilever, Coca-Cola, Bacardi, American Express, Citi, BP, UPS, Microsoft, and Google. Welcome, Joanna.
Thank you very much.
Now, Joanna, you have said that now is a tricky time to be a chief marketing officer. And I think that many CMOs would agree with you on that. Why is that? What are the key factors that are driving change for chief marketing officers today?
If you look into it, there is clearly a problem. There is something really wrong in the stature of CMOs in the organization. So, there's some research done recently, it was last year, that showed that 80% of CEOs say they do not trust their CMOs and are not impressed by their work. So CMOs should be worried about their jobs. And 90% of the same CEOs trust and value the opinion and work of their CFOs and CIOs. So what is it? Why is it? And there are clues in what these CEOs say. 75% of CEOs think marketers misunderstand and misuse the definition of the words results, ROI, and performance. There's a clue then. Not seen as being connected to business realities. CEOs also believe that CMOs live in a creative and social media bubble. They're focused on likes, tweets, feeds, or followers, not real stuff like money. And they also think that CMOs are distracted and stuck into sort of technological jargon, and have forgotten that technology is a support tool. And because they don't really understand it, are, getting carried away by it to the, rather than looking at what really matters in marketing. So I think one of the things we worry about is, why is this? Yeah. And I think looking at it, some of these CEO comments are real. In many cases, the occupants of the CMO role have failed to keep up with the times. Many of them came out of traditional advertising and are, have failed to link marketing to finance, demonstrate the impact of what they do on financial outcomes and incomes. They failed to keep up with changing customers, especially, the new digital first generations. They don't necessarily understand the importance of digital, how much to invest in it. And some of them have rushed, again, the CEO comments are right, headlong into social media and now pulling back. Some of them like, Mark Pritchard at P&G have publicly stated, we got too excited about it. We are pulling back. And my, peers, maybe you should be thinking the same.
If the CMO is possibly in trouble, and of course we like to think that
definitely in trouble.
We like to think that they can help themselves with the help of people like you, but who is benefiting? Is it a chief revenue officer? Is it demand gen? Is it customer experience? Is it all of the above? Who's taking that prime spot, or are things just fragmented in a typical organization?
I think there is no such thing today as a typical organization. It's a complete mess. So it's true that a lot of CMO roles are disappearing. There's been a fashion, right, in the last couple of years for large companies of all sizes to proudly declare that they don't see any value in the CMO role and they're getting rid of it. It happened at Coca-Cola in 2017. It happened at Lyft last year. It's happened at Hyatt. It's happened at McDonald's. Uber, Taco Bell, J&J. They've all announced in the past few years that they're getting rid of their CMOs and they're not going to be replaced. So that's one. But if that was just the trend, that would be one thing. But where is it going? What are these people who are getting rid of their CMOs doing? And it's all over the place. Some, to your point, are abolishing the CMO role and replacing it with a differently defined role. And there's a host of new titles. There is absolutely no consensus. So if you look out there are chief growth officers, there are chief revenue officers, there are chief digital officers, there are chief customer officers, chief commercial officers, chief brand officers, chief communications officers.
You mentioned that the CEO perhaps has less confidence in the marketing officer because the CMO is maybe seen as in love with social media and fluff, and yet they're under pressure to become fully digital. Is there a contradiction there? Are they prioritizing the wrong things?
Digital's thrown everything up in the air because digital transforms the whole company. It spans silos. It kills traditional boundaries between marketing, brand, sales, innovation, customer experience, digital, social, corporate communications. None of those boundaries make sense. And it is actually social media that's forcing that because they collide. So what does this mean? It means that the person who is in charge of, and I'd rather not use the term marketing in a way, it is marketing, but it's all about driving demand. That is marketing's job. Marketing is about the demand chain. It's about driving revenue streams, in the short, medium, and longer term. That is the job. It's not about advertising. It's not about, social media. It's about everything that contributes to driving future sales and profits within the organization through the lens of the customer. The future is about the companies that come out of the crisis we're in now oriented on the growth and driving demand and marketing, and the ones that are positioning them now to do that are the ones who are going to succeed. And the most visionary CEOs, CFOs, and boards are understanding that.
You're a co-creator of the AMA New York's Marketing Hall of Fame, our flagship event, which recognizes brilliance in marketing. So you've had the occasion to be in boardrooms or be at events with some of the top CMOs in the country and even globally. Keith Weed and Wendy Clark and the CMO of Adobe and many, many, many others. When you think about those individuals, what do they have in common? What makes them so successful?
I think part of it is that they think about marketing the way I was just describing it, in a more holistic manner. They see their job as being critical to driving the future growth of the company, and they think about it that way. That's one thing. They have a bigger, broader view of marketing, which goes across the whole of the demand chain, and they're able to sell that in the organization. Another thing is, of course, they start with the customer. If you think about Keith Weed's a good example. His success within Unilever was by coming in and saying, customer, 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 where whenever he goes anywhere, the first thing he ever did all the time he was at Unilever was not go to the office, but go to where the products were being sold, hang around and talk to customers. So, marketing starts by understanding the customer, is it's about defining the customer differently. The customer is not just people who we've been targeting to sell our products to. The customer is everybody who is today in the market for what we sell, or who might be touched by what we sell now or in the future. So it's about defining the customer as the community. So, one of the marketers, he's been a CMO and he's also, an academic and an author, is someone called Larry Light, who coined the phrase freedom within a framework, which is very much being used by someone, say, like Joe Tripodi, who established it at Coca-Cola, which means that you understand and you establish what is sacrosanct for a brand, what everybody else out there in other parts of the world can't touch, at least not without asking. And then where everybody else has freedom to improvise, to do what they need to do for their markets, to innovate. To give you an example of getting that right, I remember Joe telling me the story of Australia. And Coca-Cola Australia, actually, I love this story especially because it was in partnership with Ogilvy, who had the original idea, came to Joe in his role as global CEO of Coca-Cola and said, we have this idea and we know it breaks your brand guidelines, but can we try it? And it did break all the brand guidelines because it meant taking the Coca-Cola bottle off the can, the Coca-Cola logo off the can, and putting people's names in instead. I'm sure many of you have seen the results of that. And Joe said, well, it does break the rules, but I guess it's interesting. It's kind of a cool idea. And you're in Australia and that's a long way away. Why don't you try it? And it's in Australia, maybe nobody will notice, so if it doesn't work, we'll be okay. So Coca-Cola tried it. It was a smash hit. And what they then did, they didn't say, rest of Coca-Cola, you have to use it. They said, Joe said, well, it seems to have worked in Australia. If any other regions or countries want to try it, go ahead. You can volunteer. And you know what? 72 countries signed up immediately, including the US, where, many of you have seen it. So getting that right, I think, is critical to success.
Joanna, do you see a shift back to brand marketing from performance marketing? Or has brand marketing always been important?
Brand marketing's always been important. Brands are, you talked about brand valuation. Brands are one of the most valuable assets, if not the most valuable assets of companies. Now, I'm not generally, a lover of accountants, but the Accounting Standards Board and the ISO have recently published new standards, accounting standards for brands. And in the intro, believe it or not, they say, brand is one of, if not the most valuable asset of companies. But for most companies, it is so important. So brand and brand marketing has always been critical. I think what really is important now is the recognition, which is starting to happen, but so much more needs to be done. It was thrown off by the rise of performance marketing and digital, which focused attention in on things which were very quick and easy to measure. It's easy to count clicks. It's less easy to count brand. But I think there is an increasing recognition that brand is not just about long term. It's not just about, big advertising campaigns. It's that brand is the external expression of business strategy. It is the expression of why a company or why a product exists, why it matters, and that is has to be driven through marketing, through every aspect of what a company or product does. And that means it has to be driven through every aspect of marketing. They don't think hierarchically. They don't think globally. It's not about a chain of command. It's not about, I'm the CMO, I control marketing, I tell the organization what to do. It's about getting to, or at least trying to get to, the right balance between global and local, centralized and decentralized. And it's not easy. Many organizations kind of go backwards and forwards, They centralize, they decentralize. People got distracted by social media and digital, thinking that that wasn't about brand. I think there's an increasing recognition that brand is part of everything.
Excellent. Joanna, as we sit here, this country has been plunged into a crisis. There are protests all across this country and others around social justice, racial justice, and there's just a new awareness of many of the terrible flaws in our society and culture. Is this this is a challenge for brand marketers, but is it also an opportunity to show their values?
It's a fantastic opportunity. This is something, everybody, all our clients, all companies we talk to are asking us about, what does it mean for us and what do we do? And there are two sets of answers to this, which are kind of connected. And the focus was all on what do you do this moment, right? And a lot of companies panicked. Some, pulled the plug and stopped all marketing and said, we're going to go dark. It's not right to talk about our products, but particularly, if your products are, more frivolous, more luxury type products, that could be the right thing to do. For most companies, it's not the thing to do, but neither is it the thing to do is to just use words. You have to act right now, and you have to act and not just say the right things, but do the right things. And I think a lot of companies have been wrestling with this, and they're moving beyond this now. What companies need to do and what the best marketers are thinking about is, how do we plan for the future? What do we do coming out of all this? And it means that companies have to, do things that they should have been doing in the first place, that they were thinking of doing, but they have to accelerate them. There is no more tolerance, for companies that are not authentic, that do not act right. So what it's doing is that consumers' expectations of brands and marketing and companies are heightened, and this is not going to go away. So the patience for companies who just mouth platitudes, who do not put their actions where their words are, you can see it every day in the media. It's not going to work anymore. So companies are being judged by a higher standard, and that comes to how they look after and treat communities, how they think about health, how they think about their employees, how they deal with diversity and inclusion, and how they are authentic in what they say and what they do, how they subscribe to a purpose that is bigger than them and actually live up to it, is going to be judged more and more. Sustainability, diversity, companies are going to have to act.
Well, Joanna, thank you so much for your time. I know you had a jam-packed day, and I hope this is the last meeting on your schedule.
This is the fun bit. It is not, but this was the most fun part.
Oh, thanks so much. We'll see you at our next meeting, and I very much appreciate your insights.
Okay, great.
Thank you to today's guest, Joanna Seddon. The future of the CMO series is brought to you by the American Marketing Association New York chapter and our sponsors, Cisco, Microsoft, Ogilvy, and Lettershop. You can learn more about today's guest, our sponsors, and the AMA New York in the show notes. The AMA New York chapter inspires, supports, and celebrates brilliant marketers working in the heart of the world's most influential city. We hope you'll tune into other episodes of this series or visit amanewyork.org to learn more about our programs.